The 1950s sci-fi movies weren't just cheesy alien flicks or rubber suit monster mashups. They were crystal balls predicting the future in ways Hollywood still hasn't caught up with. From atomic fears to alien diplomacy, these films nailed the biggest issues we wrestle with today. So, what can a flying saucer or a radioactive lizard teach us about modern life? Buckle up, because these sci-fi classics are way more relevant than you'd expect. The War of the Worlds, 1953. Alien invasion stories have been around forever, but the 1953 version of The War of the Worlds isn't your average flying saucer panic fest. This film took H.G. Wells' 1898 novel and blasted it straight into the Cold War era, turning those tripod aliens into sleek, heat-ray blasting spaceships that terrified 1950s America just as much as the real-life threat of nuclear war. The filmmakers didn't have the budget for Wells' giant tripods, so they went with a sleeker, more feasible design, and it became iconic. What's striking is how the movie captures that post-World War II anxiety perfectly. America was still catching its breath from the horrors of global conflict, now facing the unknown of the atomic age and the rise of the Soviet threat. Watching helpless humans flee from a merciless, technologically superior alien force isn't just sci-fi horror. It's a metaphor for the era's deepest fears. The alien invasion represents anything uncontrollable and unstoppable, like nuclear fallout, or even the paranoia of communism spreading like wildfire. Yet the movie isn't just about terror. It's a tense, suspenseful thriller that feels surprisingly modern, relying on atmosphere and psychological dread instead of today's CGI extravaganzas. The human reactions, panic, disbelief, and courage are what make it timeless. Plus, the cold, methodical aliens remind us of today's anxieties about AI and autonomous weapons, cold machines with no empathy or mercy. So, The War of the Worlds isn't just an alien invasion flick. It's a reflection of our ongoing fears about technology outpacing humanity's control. And honestly, that makes it as relevant today as when it first hit the screen. Godzilla 1954. You might think Godzilla is just a giant lizard in a rubber suit smashing Tokyo for fun, but the original 1954 Godzilla is way deeper and darker than the monster stompers you see today. Born from Japan's traumatic experience with nuclear bombings, this beast wasn't a mindless creature. It was a walking symbol of atomic destruction, the physical embodiment of humanity's worst scientific nightmare unleashed. The movie opens with ominous newsreel-style footage hinting at atomic tests and mysterious disasters, setting a tone of dread that hits harder than your average monster movie. Godzilla is a slow, unstoppable force of nature, wrecking cities not because it's evil, but because it's a byproduct of mankind's careless messing with nuclear energy. This was fresh, terrifying commentary for 1950s audiences still processing the devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The monster itself breathes radioactive fire, a brilliant metaphor for nuclear fallout, and every city it stomps through becomes a ruin, a harsh reminder that technology without responsibility can lead to disaster. The Japanese version of Godzilla doesn't sugarcoat anything. It's a raw, almost tragic meditation on human hubris and the terrifying legacy of war. And here's the kicker. Godzilla isn't just a relic of the past. The creature's ongoing popularity, still crushing skyscrapers and starring in blockbusters, shows how nuclear anxiety hasn't gone away. Even today, Godzilla represents the unpredictable and destructive power of technology, climate change, and the consequences of ignoring science's dark side. So beneath the rubber suit and city-sized stomping is a deeply relevant warning about what happens when humans play with forces they don't fully understand. Godzilla is more than a monster. It's a mirror reflecting our fears about progress outpacing control. The Day the Earth Stood Still, 1951. When it comes to sci-fi that packs a message still ringing loud today, The Day the Earth Stood Still is the granddaddy of them all. Forget lasers and monster battles. This one's about a visitor from outer space landing not to wreak havoc, but to deliver a stark warning. Klaatu, the alien envoy, shows up in Washington, D.C. with a clear ultimatum. Humanity either learns to live peacefully or faces total annihilation. This film nailed the global tension of the Cold War like no other. Picture this. The atomic bomb was still fresh in people's minds, and the threat of nuclear war was as real as your morning coffee. Klaatu's message: Humans need to quit playing with fire before they burn the whole planet down. It's basically an early environmental and disarmament PSA wrapped in a spacesuit. The sci-fi here isn't flashy, but the impact is huge. The movie used minimal special effects, relying instead on eerie silences and tense moments where the entire planet literally stops moving. It's like pressing a cosmic pause button on human madness. Michael Rennie's haunting performance as Klaatu adds gravitas. He's not just some visitor, he's a warning we still need to heed. Even the famous phrase Klaatu barada nikto has become a pop culture code for "don't screw this up." The film's core question, can humanity grow up and work together before it's too late, feels as urgent now as it did over 70 years ago. So, The Day the Earth Stood Still isn't just sci-fi. It's a blueprint for peace and survival that echoes in modern debates about climate change, nuclear treaties, and global cooperation. If you think sci-fi can't be serious, this one proves you wrong. Forbidden Planet 1956. Forbidden Planet might look like your classic space adventure on the surface, but dig a little deeper, and it's basically the mother of all sci-fi that predicted AI, space travel, and the dark corners of the human mind. Set on a distant planet, the story follows a spaceship crew sent to investigate a missing expedition, only to find Dr. Morbius and his daughter living in eerie isolation with their high-tech robot, Robbie. Here's where things get interesting. This movie gave the world one of the first cinematic robots that wasn't a clunky machine but a fully realized character. Robbie the robot is charming, competent, and even heroic, a far cry from the mindless metal men of earlier sci-fi. This paved the way for every robot buddy in movies since, from R2-D2 to Wall-E. But Forbidden Planet isn't just about cool tech. It's inspired by Shakespeare's The Tempest and dives headfirst into the idea that the human subconscious can be as dangerous as any alien threat. The film's monster is actually an invisible force created by repressed desires and fears, something that today's psychology buffs would call the id running wild. Back in the 50s, this was groundbreaking stuff. The film suggested that advanced technology might unlock terrifying parts of ourselves, a theme that's all over modern sci-fi dealing with AI and virtual realities. Plus, it was one of the first big-budget sci-fi films to take space seriously, influencing decades of films about space exploration. So, Forbidden Planet isn't just a retro space romp, it's a philosophical trip into technology, psychology, and what it means to be human. If you think sci-fi is just about aliens and ray guns, this one will make you think twice. Them, 1954. If you think giant ants are just the stuff of nightmares or bad cartoons, think again. Them was the first of the 50s atomic monster movies to hit theaters with serious brains behind its bug-eyed terror. It starts with a mysterious series of deaths in the New Mexico desert, which turns out to be the work of giant radioactive ants born from atomic testing. Yeah, it sounds wild, but beneath those creepy exoskeletons lies a sharp commentary on the dangers of nuclear weapons and human recklessness. Unlike Godzilla's citywide rampage, Them plays out more like a detective thriller with a monster twist. Two police officers and a scientist race against time to stop these oversized insects before they can invade civilization. The suspense builds slowly, making the threat feel real and immediate rather than cartoonish. What makes Them stand out is how it treats its giant ants as a natural consequence of scientific hubris rather than pure fantasy. This reflects a time when the world was still trying to understand the terrifying fallout of atomic bombs and radiation. The movie taps into genuine fears about what mankind's new power could unleash on the environment and future generations. And despite the oversized bug suits and 1950s special effects, the film's message hasn't aged. Today, concerns about genetic engineering, environmental disruption, and unforeseen consequences of science feel just as urgent. Plus, the story reminds us that heroes come in all forms, from determined cops to brilliant scientists, working together to save the day. So, Them isn't just an old-school monster flick. It's a cautionary tale about respecting the power we wield and the tiny creatures that can become titans when provoked. Big bugs, bigger lesson. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1956. Imagine waking up one day to find everyone around you acting like perfect copies, emotionless, conformist, and totally lacking that messy human spark. That's the nightmare at the heart of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. a film that's way more than a 1950s sci-fi thriller. It's a sharp, paranoid allegory about losing your identity, individuality, and free will, fears that were electric during the McCarthy era and feel eerily relevant today. The story follows a small town where people are replaced by alien duplicates grown from pods, emotionless copies who march in lockstep. It taps into deep anxieties about conformity and creeping totalitarianism, reflecting the Red Scare's grip on American minds. But the real genius of the film is how it shows the terror of isolation. Who can you trust when anyone might be podded? What's wild is that Invasion of the Body Snatchers still feels fresh, because those themes haven't gone away. Think about today's world of social media echo chambers, viral misinformation, and the pressure to fit in. The film predicted the struggle to hold on to what makes us uniquely human in an era of mass conformity. The tension is relentless, the atmosphere claustrophobic, and the final scenes hit you like a punch to the gut. It's no wonder this movie spawned countless remakes and inspired everything from horror to sci-fi to political thrillers. So this classic isn't just about aliens. It's a chilling reflection on the dangers of losing yourself to a crowd and the fight to stay truly alive in a world that wants you to blend in. The Blob 1958. You've probably heard of the Blob, maybe as a cult favorite creature feature. But beneath that gooey, gelatinous monster lies a surprisingly sharp metaphor for unstoppable threats that grow beyond control. The story kicks off when a meteorite crashes near a small town, releasing a translucent, ever-growing mass that swallows everything and everyone in its path. What's brilliant about the Blob is how it captures the fear of things we can't quite see or control, much like viral outbreaks or environmental disasters. That creeping, consuming menace is an early cinematic echo of the invisible dangers that haunt us today: diseases, pollution, or even social chaos that spreads without warning. Steve McQueen stars as a teenager who witnesses the horror but struggles to convince the adults, giving the movie a classic young hero versus skeptical society vibe. That skepticism feels real and familiar, mirroring how society often reacts slowly or in denial to crises. Special effects might look quaint now, but the suspense and imagination more than make up for it. The Blob itself is almost hypnotic, a strange, unstoppable force that just keeps eating and growing, much like the problems humanity faces when we ignore warning signs. In the end, The Blob isn't just a monster movie. It's a cautionary tale about ignoring small problems until they become huge disasters. So next time you hear about an invisible threat growing out of control, remember this gooey monster from the 50s was way ahead of its time. It came from outer space in 1953. It Came from Outer Space flips the script on the usual alien invasion trope. Instead of hostile invaders hell-bent on destruction, this film presents aliens with a mysterious agenda and humans caught between fear and curiosity. Based on a story by Ray Bradbury, it's one of the earliest movies to explore first contact in a way that questions human assumptions and reactions. The film opens with a pilot crashing near a desert town after witnessing a spaceship landing. As the aliens secretly observe humans, the local sheriff and townsfolk grapple with fear and suspicion, classic aliens among us paranoia. But the aliens aren't villains. They're survivors, stranded on Earth, desperately trying to fix their ship and avoid conflict. What makes It Came from Outer Space still stand out today is its message about the dangers of fear-driven reactions and the importance of understanding the unknown. This is a film about communication, diplomacy, and the need to overcome suspicion to survive, a theme that feels strikingly relevant in today's global and interstellar explorations. The movie's modest special effects don't overshadow its thoughtful approach to alien visitors as beings with their own stories and motivations. It's a refreshing take that helped shape how sci-fi deals with extraterrestrials, not as mindless monsters, but as complex entities. So, It Came from Outer Space isn't just a 50s sci-fi relic. It's an early meditation on how humans handle difference, the unknown, and the need to look beyond fear. It's a film that reminds us, maybe the real monsters are our own prejudices. This Island Earth, 1955. If you think 1950s sci-fi was all about monster stomps and flying saucers zooming around, This Island Earth throws in a hefty dose of high-concept alien diplomacy and intergalactic intrigue. The story kicks off when a scientist starts receiving mysterious packages with alien tech blueprints, and before long, he's whisked off to a distant planet to join an interstellar battle between good and evil. Yeah, it's basically the 50s version of a cosmic spy thriller. What makes This Island Earth stand out is how it brings serious ideas about communication across galaxies, war beyond Earth, and the test of human worthiness into the genre. The aliens here aren't just monsters. They're complex beings with their own agendas, and humans are pawns in a much bigger game. That kind of cosmic chessboard feels way ahead of its time, foreshadowing modern sci-fi epics where Earth is just one piece in a vast universe. The practical effects, giant glowing orbs, the iconic metal helmets, and the first-ever flying metal biplanes might look a little dated now, but the imaginative tech and ideas about interspecies contact still spark fascination. The film also inspired later classics like Star Trek and The Last Starfighter, which borrowed heavily from its concepts of alien recruitment and space battles. In a decade dominated by paranoia and suspicion, this island Earth dared to imagine cooperation beyond our planet and the challenges of stepping into a galactic community. Its legacy is huge. It challenged sci-fi to think bigger, wilder, and more philosophically. So if you want a sci-fi that's both a wild ride and a cerebral trip, this one's a time capsule with some serious future vibes. Plan 9 from Outer Space, 1959. Okay, buckle up. Plan 9 from Outer Space might just be the most infamous, so bad it's good movie ever made. Directed by Ed Wood, whose passion wildly outpaced his budget and skills, this film is a glorious mess of flying saucers that look like frisbees and zombies shuffling around with socks on their hands. But beneath the laughable effects and plot holes lies something oddly endearing. A goofy love letter to sci-fi fandom and the era's obsession with alien invasion. The story is simple. Aliens attempt to stop humanity from destroying itself by resurrecting the dead and forcing people to pay attention. It's goofy, it's campy, and it's loaded with charm. Plus, it's inspired generations of filmmakers and fans to embrace imperfect creativity. Why include a cult disaster in a list of predictive sci-fi? Because Plan 9 reflects an era's fears of nuclear apocalypse and humanity's desperate grasp for hope through bizarre means. It's a reminder that sometimes the message matters more than the execution. The film captures the chaotic, do-it-yourself spirit that would fuel decades of indie sci-fi and fan culture. And let's face it, Ed Wood's earnestness makes it impossible to hate. This film's legacy is proof that sci-fi isn't just about slick effects. It's about imagination, heart, and sometimes just plain fun. So, Plan 9 from Outer Space isn't just a bad movie. It's a cult classic that predicted the enduring power of fandom and the quirky side of science fiction. There you have it, 10 50s sci-fi gems that didn't just entertain, but predicted so much of what we wrestle with today. Nuclear fear, alien diplomacy, AI, and the fight to hold on to our humanity. These films remind us that sci-fi isn't just about monsters and ray guns. It's a mirror to our deepest hopes and anxieties. Got a favorite from this list? Or think we missed one? Drop your thoughts below, hit subscribe, and let's keep exploring the future together.